After recently looking at over 4,000 suburbs and 19 of Australia's leading markets, I cannot state enough how undervalued and incredibly well positioned Brisbane is, not just in 2025, but leading into the 2032 Olympic Games, which is why the likes of SQM, based on their third scenario, which is interest rates declining in the first quarter of this year and 500,000 people moving to Australia this year, are expecting prices in Brisbane to rise by somewhere between 9 and 16% this year, which is absolutely insane. Which is why in today's video, we wanted to bring 6 reasons why we love Brisbane in 2025.
Now, the first reason is just the sheer amount of people that are moving to Queensland at the moment. Now, this has been an ongoing trend since COVID, where so many people have been moving to Queensland from other states in Australia, but we're still getting a massive percentage of the international immigration as well. And the ABS believes that there should be over 100,000 people moving to Queensland every single year over the next 5 years, increasing the population by over 500,000 between 2025 and 2030. Whereas Michael Matusik indicates that there's less than 30,000 new dwellings expected to be completed each year. So I don't have to do the math for you there. You can see there is a significant disconnect between the supply side of things and the demand side of things. And we know property prices should rise off the back of that.
Now, the second reason is the 2032 Olympic Games. Now, if we go back to Sydney between the years of 1997 and 2003, house prices went up 97% around those Olympic Games, and rents in almost every single suburb in Sydney doubled over that period. Now, while there's so much information online about these Olympic Games, it's actually got nothing to do with any of the things that you'll see in the media this year. It's not the population growth that's going to drive that. It's not the jobs. It's not the infrastructure spending. The simple fact is, we as humans love to make money without doing anything for it. And as we get closer to the Olympic Games, there's going to be monster speculation, not just from Australians, but from people all over the world that want a little piece of that growth pie, and that's what's going to drive the market up over time.
Now, the third reason is just looking at history, because let's be real, nobody can predict the future and nobody really knows what's coming next. But one of our mentors, Phil Anderson, has a great saying where we need to remember the future. So one of the best data sets that we've received from Homely looks at property prices in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Perth between 1970 and 2016. Now, over that period of time, Brisbane was Australia's top performing market if you add up the capital growth rates over the 46-year period and divide it by the number of years, bringing Brisbane's annual growth rate to 9.7%, which actually beats Sydney, Melbourne and Perth. But what I also love is Phil Anderson's work, where he looked at 3 cycles in Australia and he looked at the average growth rate in each of the capital cities during the growth phase of that cycle, which lasts about 14 years. And Brisbane's historically done around 125 to 130% during that growth period. Now, if we look at the start of this cycle and where we're at right now, there is some suburbs that have probably done close to that, but there is so many suburbs that we currently invest in for our clients that has not got anywhere close to these numbers. In fact, some of these suburbs have only gone up 70 to 80% since the cycle began. So there's lots of upside potential in the right areas.
Now, the fourth reason, and to be honest with you, the major reason I'm looking to invest in Brisbane later this year, is it's dirt cheap. It is super affordable relative to Sydney right now. Now, an example of this is a suburb that we grew up in Sydney, which is on the southern side of the city, and it's called Engadine, and it's about 30 to 32 k's away from the city. Now, having a look there a couple of weeks ago, you can buy a 600 square meter block with a 4-bedroom home in that area for somewhere between about 1.2 and about $1.6 million. Now, comparing a similar suburb 32 k's from the city of Brisbane called Eden's Landing, which is an up-and-comer in the southern side of the city, the exact same type of property would be selling right now for somewhere between $700K and $850,000, which, when you look at the difference in incomes between the two cities, Brisbane's incomes have gone up so much since COVID that they're within 3% of the average household income in Sydney now. Now, on top of this example, when you look at the beachside suburbs on the southern side of Sydney versus the southern side of Brisbane, so if we go to Cronulla Beach, which is about 19 to 22 k's away from the city on the southern beaches of Sydney, you're looking at least 1.8 up to $5 million for a good quality property in that suburb right now. Now, if we go a similar distance on the southern beaches of Brisbane to somewhere like Cleveland or Birkdale, between 19 and about 25 k's from the city, you can get into these suburbs, which are super close to the city, like Cronulla would be, or the northern beaches in Sydney, for somewhere between about $900,000 and $1 million, which is why the guys in the Australian Financial Review and the analysts from Australia's leading banks are expecting these beachside suburbs on the south side of Brisbane to go from somewhere like $800,000 in 2024 to about $1.3 or $1.5 million on average by the 2032 Olympic Games, which is phenomenal and massive upside.
And just like Sydney has the northern beaches versus the southern beaches, it's similar up here in Brisbane as well, where we do have the southeastern beaches and the northeastern beaches. Now, what's wild is you can still buy properties on the northeast beaches for around $700,000. Now, an example of this is a property that we recently bought for a client of ours, 25 Kate Avenue in Deception Bay. Now, this property ticked every single one of the boxes. It's a low set brick and tile house, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, with a 1-car garage that could easily be converted into a 4th bedroom. It's on a 675 square meter block in a nice, quiet, family-friendly street. No flooding, no public housing in the street, and it was less than 1 kilometre as the crow flies from the water. Now, this property has so much potential, given that you could potentially build a granny flat in the backyard, you could knock down and rebuild something incredible, or you could just renovate what currently sits on it. But I think a lot of people believe that they need massive budgets to purchase close to the water in markets like Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane, but it's actually not the case if you know how to find that needle in a haystack.
Now, the 5th reason we're liking Brisbane is just the crazy amount of infrastructure, not just coming into Brisbane, but into southeast Queensland at the moment. Any search on Google that you do at the moment, which is Brisbane or southeast Queensland plus major private or public infrastructure projects, you'll come up with literally pages and pages of search results and literally tens of billions of dollars worth of projects right now. Now, they're doing everything they possibly can up here right now to accommodate this population growth and get ready for the 2032 Olympic Games. Some of the major projects that we're noticing is the first underground metro line in the CBD of Brisbane, which is about 8 train stations. The M1, which is the major road that runs from the Sunshine Coast to Brisbane and Brisbane to the Gold Coast, is being completely upgraded at the moment. Train lines, hospitals, universities, schools are being built everywhere. New shopping centres, refurbishments of old shopping centres, and then the private works on top of that, which is all of the casino upgrades, the bayside upgrades, the private projects for apartments, units, housing estates, bars, restaurants, cafes, hotel chains is absolutely phenomenal up here. You drive around the city and it's just got this feeling that something's happening. There's cranes everywhere. And off the back of that, it's resulting in our 6th and final reason that we love Brisbane for 2025 and beyond. And that is the crazy amount of jobs going to high income earners in this city right now.
Now, it's almost never been the case where you can move from Sydney to Brisbane and still earn the same amount of money, but we're starting to hear so many stories of this happening at the moment. We have countless clients that are working remotely, living in southeast Queensland, but still working their jobs in Sydney or Melbourne as high income earners. But then you got these stories of one of my really good mates, LT, where he's an engineer in Sydney that works for New South Wales Trains that's been poached by a large company in Queensland. He's moving up here, and when I was talking to him about why he's moving, he said, well, I'm going to be earning the same amount of money. I may have the capacity to earn even more, but I go from paying $2,000 a week with my partner in Sydney for an incredible apartment to paying $1,000 per week. So he's literally making a saving of $52,000 per year in his rent, which he then has to spend on other things, which, knowing him, he'll be investing in the crypto market or continuing to build his property portfolio. But these stories don't happen all the time, and it's just because there is so many jobs available up here at the moment and there is not enough skilled workers to fill the jobs.
You know, another one of our mates growing up, Swatto, is in the same position. So he's one of those guys that is head of plumbing projects around Australia, working for the biggest of the biggest companies. Every time there's a new hospital, casino, hotel, school, university, it's sort of like they bring those guys in to solve these problems. And his company is putting out to all of those top dogs around the nation that the next 7 to 9 years look like Brisbane's time, and they're trying to move as many of them up there as possible. The other day I got off a call with an engineer in Sydney, same sort of thing, earning $250,000 a year. He said that all of his projects are coming to a squeeze in Sydney, and the next 7 to 9 years they're trying to move as many of them up to the Brisbane office as possible to deliver what looks like it's going to be around about 40 years worth of projects in the next 7. So I heard something recently that the trade rate in Brisbane is now the highest hourly rate in Australia. Trades are earning more in Brisbane than they are in Sydney, Darwin, WA and Melbourne, which is phenomenal because it's not just the rent or the house prices that are cheaper, but the groceries, the petrol, the cost of living, the cafes, the restaurants, the bars, the shopping is all cheaper as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're so excited about the future. People earning 1 or 2 incomes can come up here now and live like they used to be able to live 15 or 20 years ago in Sydney or 10 years ago in Melbourne and have a phenomenal lifestyle for themselves, for their families. And the more of these income earners move over, the more of the people and the new residents coming into the country realize how affordable it is and how great the incomes are, the better it is for property prices and rents in the city moving forward.
I just love doing videos like this and diving into some of the data there because these are just 6 of so many reasons why we believe in Brisbane at the moment. I'm super bullish. I'm super excited to see what the future holds. But go out there, type in a Google search, have a look at some of the different things that are occurring in Queensland at the moment. It is an absolute hotspot and expected to be the case for the next 7 years until the 2032 Olympic Games.
G'day guys, my name's Ben and I'm the director here at Pumped on Property, and I just wanted to say a massive thank you for watching our content today. Now, if you're thinking about buying an investment property in the next 3 to 12 months, then the team and I would love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. In that session, we can talk about exactly where you are right now, where you'd like to be longer term, and we can deeply educate you on the Australian market. And then you can take that information and go and absolutely smash it on your own, or potentially become one of the small number of clients that we work with each week. To book your session, all you have to do is go to www.pumpedonproperty.com and click that book your free strategy session button. But either way, we wish you all the best on your journey as an investor to financial freedom.